realized, wow, this is actually the noise of the war. This is concrete. This is right here, right now. I could feel the love, but I could feel the fear as well. And how not to be contaminated by the fear of other when you already feel some fear, right? I was super anxious and stressed because I felt stuck. But I had options and I could leave, whereas the people we were interacting every day, that's their life. That's where they are. Where would they go? Evacuation is not compulsory, so you can say yes or no. If you say no, there won't be any more Belgian army plane. This is the only one. That was like Saturday, 4 p.m. and the plane was like Sunday, 11 a.m. And we're like, okay, what do we do now?
Welcome to the next episode of Beyond the Bubble. And it's a pleasure to have here Aurelien, whom I don't know if I met you for the very first time here today, or perhaps at one point our paths have crossed. But certainly we got in touch, or he got in touch to talk about a very philosophical but highly consequential and highly emotional story of his career and his private life. And philosophical in the sense of how macro level global events impact us as individuals. So I'm very curious to hear his story. It's deeply linked to the EU, to Israel, to the world, and his family. So let's get into it, and we will explore how the big events impact us as individuals. So with that, welcome.
Hi, Andras. Thank you.
So my first question is, what brought you here?
So what brought me to Brussels?
What brought you to Brussels and what brought you to the studio today? But maybe we start with Brussels first.
Okay. I arrived in Brussels in 2009 and it feels
2009.
like, exactly, 2009. And it already feels like a century. But I remember starting my career abroad, looking for what I wanted to do in life, a purpose, also a great team to work, and I started many different careers in my life, but I finally ended up checking offers to work for those kind of civil society organization in Brussels, working on disability. On disability inclusion, and I applied. I was living in Paris at the time, and I got a job. And I actually was surprised to get the job because I had absolutely no experience in the EU. I had some previous experiences in Latin America. I was a journalist. The only connection I had with that job was maybe my expertise with journalism and communication, and that's how I arrived one day with my bag at the train station. And that's where I started this new life.
When that chapter began. But maybe then let's go back a little bit. So you're French, and what did you study? And tell me more about your work in journalism.
Yeah, so I grew up in Toulouse in the southwest of France. I remember that my father really wanted me to do mathematics and become an engineer, and I was like, "Is it what I really want?" And I remember trying to convince him to study law. I thought law was like the career I wanted to do. Political science, law was something I was more passionate about, and so I studied law, but got super bored after 2 years. But I didn't want to lose my path because it was also, I also found some intellectual trigger in studying law. But I don't know, I wanted to travel, I wanted to see the world, I wanted to work with the people, and law didn't look like something that would lead me on that way. I went on Erasmus in the UK, I diverted to political science, and ended up doing a master in communication. And I quickly, my life was about traveling and working with the media. Basically, at this time, I was doing an internship with Radio France, which is a kind of the French own media. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. I loved the people. I loved the job. I loved the crowd. I loved the energy. And probably thanks to this experience in radio station, I was a receptionist. I was nothing else than a receptionist at the time. But I remember, feeling passionate about the work of the journalist, being invited a little bit more in their content, in the way they were working. And so I quickly got a job in Latin America as a journalist for Radio France International.
So from receptionist, you went to a Latin American reporter.
It was a kind of young professional internship.
Yeah.
And so my mission was to organize cultural events in the Alliance Française and to develop like a local Radio France International show, basically.
Which country was it?
It was in the Dominican Republic.
Ah, okay.
And I think that was the time of my life because I was really working on what I love. I was meeting amazing people. So I was organizing cultural events, exhibitions, preview of local movies, with also the European movies was a big major of the activities at this time. But the point is, I remember inviting, like it was not a podcast because podcast didn't really exist in 2003, 2004. But we had a show that was live every week to promote the activities of the Alliance Française. And I loved it. I found it amazing to connect with the artist, to invite them.
And that was in Spanish or in French?
It was in Spanish. Believe it or not, it was in Spanish. And it was 2 beautiful years developing this project with a lot of freedom, a lot of independence. And yeah, that was a beautiful time.
Okay. And then from that, you eventually landed in Brussels.
Yeah, so I actually met my former wife there. We were looking for the next steps in our life. And it was complicated to stay in the Caribbean. Maybe we didn't also want to stay stuck on an island. And we came back to Europe. We had a couple of years in Paris together, not very satisfied with being back in a huge capital. And
it's a bit like a diplomat who's brought back to the headquarters and really wants to go for the next assignment.
Kind of, except we were 25 years old at the time, so we wanted to explore more. We both had in mind that Brussels could be a great place to, to work our career in international affairs, and we both had a plan to actually try to get accomplished in Brussels. And I was the first to shoot, and I got this position at the European Disability Forum. Which was surprising, but which was amazing as well.
As a comms role, or more of an advocacy / lobbyist?
Yeah, it was communication and advocacy. I was in charge of the communication and the advocacy campaigns. I had a lot to learn because I didn't know much about EU affairs. I didn't know much about how to be a lobbyist for the social sector. I think my strengths were my connection with people, my empathy, my wish to, I was embracing definitely be the change you want to see kind of things. That really was this moment of my life. Interestingly, I worked 4 years for this organization, so it was an organization owned by a person with disabilities. It was a representative organization. And the staff of the secretariat here in Brussels was a mix of person with disabilities and person without disabilities.
Physical or also other types of disability?
All disabilities. every disability. So it was a strong mandate to represent all the people with disabilities. And as a communication officer, I was in charge of the events. And you can imagine that the General Assembly was also an amazing moment of representation, because you have to include the person who are blind, you have to include person who are deaf, but also person in a wheelchair, and
neurodivergent.
Exactly. You have to include people with cognitive disabilities. You have to and you have to include the parents of youngsters with disabilities that cannot represent themselves, and you have to do that in all the languages. So.
I'll just pause for a second. I mean, the very topic itself merits a conversation on its own.
I think so.
Because we had here a friend, colleague, someone with visual impairment, and that episode is probably already released by the time this one is released. And that was a very interesting and very educative conversation for me to hear firsthand from someone of how they consider themselves, how they lead their everyday life and all of that. So I just want to highlight that because that is probably a much missing conversation, that there's not, if you don't have direct contact with someone living with a disability, I think you cannot really understand their challenges.
Absolutely. It's true. It's true. No one is against persons with disabilities, but people have a lot of issues understanding what inclusion means for persons with disabilities and what inclusion means for all type of disabilities. Like we all think about wheelchair access. Like we see, maybe best case scenario, we see some steps to get into a building and we're just like, oh, how a wheelchair would get in. But we don't have any, we don't realize all the barriers that we create in our society for every and each disability. So yeah, when meeting with them, working with them, and when I say them, it's like all persons with disabilities. It's amazing because that's when we realize all the barriers that they overcome, and that most of them overcome with joy and faith. So it was beautiful to discover that.
And there's another word which I'm absolutely sure it's going to come back later on in our conversation. And it very much appeared in that conversation I referenced, which is victimhood, or seeing themselves as a victim, or living with a certain condition or with a certain challenges, sometimes extremely hard challenges, but it's not their identity, right? Like, I'm not a disabled person, I'm a person living with a disability. I guess there's a big distinction between these two, which I'm assuming you would know well, being in a comms role or having been in a comms role.
Yeah, indeed. We picture persons with disability either as victim or either as heroes. And they heroes to me. But they didn't want to be seen like that. It was just like, no, I'm just like everyone else.
Let me be, right? Like, be.
Exactly. Meanwhile, my wife she passed the concours. We kind of had a list of countries we would feel happy to work in, and Zambia was absolutely not one of them.
Okay, because that's where you ended up.
Yeah, exactly. We had no idea where Zambia was, but they had an opening. They proposed a position to my wife, and one day I remember she came back home and she was like, "How would you feel about living in Zambia?" And anyway, we ended up in Zambia a year after, and to start a completely new chapter of our life. And it was also a very strong moment for my career, because I basically had to resign from my job in Brussels and reinvent a new career, being a spouse, the spouse of a diplomat, basically. So that was, it took strain, it took courage to just make this path and
uproot your life.
Yeah, exactly. And and it took time. It took a couple of years before finding a new rhythm and a new career, but it's worked beautifully. We spent 4 years in Zambia, And there were 4 beautiful years. And at the end, like the last year, we actually had our first baby. So she was born
there?
So she was born in France because the infrastructure, the health infrastructure in Lusaka were a bit scary. So we and my wife got a proposition to an upgrade, and we actually asked ourselves, do we want to go to Ghana now? And we felt we wanted to explore more of this beautiful continent. But yeah, so we spent 2 years in Ghana. It was a lot harder for me professionally to find opportunities. So I had to actually take jobs outside of Ghana. I had great opportunities to discover other countries around. My former wife, she had other opportunities in Brussels. So that's why in the end it was only 2 years.
So you came back to Brussels first, or you had the Israel assignment around that time?
So we came back to Brussels first. The family went up to 3 kids during that time. And we were exciting to explore the next chapter of our lives. And my ex-wife had other opportunities abroad, and we were like, when would be the greatest moment to travel again? We started to check where we would have possibilities to go, and what kind of position she would get for her career, and what would fit also mine. And she was very exciting with the Middle East from the day I met her 20 years ago. And so she checked options in all the Arab world and also in the Middle East. And she ended up having 2 propositions, one in Morocco and one in Jerusalem. So something that's important to know is that in Israel and Palestine, there are 2 EU delegations. Actually, there is one EU delegation in Tel Aviv that's developed the relationship with Israel. And there is one representation in Jerusalem East, so in Palestine. And it cannot be an EU delegation because Palestine is not acknowledged as a country by Israel. So in the end, they can only have a representation, but it works as a EU delegation. And so she had this possibility to be a diplomat in the EU representation in Jerusalem East, developing the relationship with Palestine, basically. So we were like, wow, how exciting. That's an amazing place to be. So we were very seduced and attracted by this kind of central geopolitical place that Jerusalem is, right? So although we really like Morocco and love the idea of having a chapter of the life there, we were more seduced by Jerusalem, and that's what we choose.
So the delegation, so there's a delegation in Tel Aviv and the representation in East Jerusalem.
Exactly.
Right? That's the term. And so it's located in, which is the West Bank, essentially, right?
Exactly.
Did you also live there?
Yeah. Well, for a very short time because of the unfortunate events that happened very quickly after, and that's part of the story that is kind of
unfolding.
Yeah, exactly. So we prepared our. It takes 1 year for an EU official to actually get appointed to a position and then prepare the position and then eventually land there. So we remembered how complicated it was to settle a family in a new place from day one. For example, when we arrived in Ghana some years before, we arrived with a baby and my wife was pregnant, and it was actually a challenge to start from scratch, to find a place to live, find a car, find the routine. So being stronger by this experience, we decided to actually go there on our own money, just to explore, to see which school would be the best for our kids.
So you went ahead to explore?
Yeah, we went 6 months before the the start of the position of my former wife, and we identified schools. We visited 15 flats in 2 days.
In Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem?
In Jerusalem, because the EU representation being in Jerusalem East, so in the West Bank.
It makes sense too.
Yeah, exactly. And they also, security-wise, that's another challenge than the EU delegation in Africa. So they don't want their staff to be further than 15 minutes walk from the EU representation. So you don't have a lot of choice. You actually have to find something in a 15
in a certain radius
of the because it's just security-wise. They want you to be close, so if something happens, they know where the people are, and it's easier to gather.
So here you are, late August, early September 2023.
Yeah.
Starting your new life in Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem.
Which were around the old city or...
Exactly. So it's amazing because the EU representation is 1 or 2 kilometers from the old city. Mm-hmm. So basically, you actually live very close to the old city. I could walk there.
Amazing. Tell our viewers about the old city. What is there to know?
It's amazing. There is a huge religious tourism. So there are tour buses. A lot of people are coming to visit, or used to come to visit the old city at least. So it's a vibrant place with a lot happening. A mix of tourism and local people owning the place, with all the problems that we know.
Because the old city is basically the part which is surrounded by the walls and the gates.
Exactly.
Right? With the different quarters.
Yeah. Have you been to Jerusalem? Yeah. So that's exactly the setup. There are the old walls. The old city is a patchwork of religion and culture. Everyone claiming more space because it's not a big. The old city is not
a huge.
It's not a huge space.
Real estate, so to say, the area.
And we all know about the issues between Muslims and Jewish, basically fighting for their places and their holy places. But there are also many other religions that actually also fight between each other. So it's a very complicated place. I remember doing a visit with a guide. I had this opportunity in a small time we were there, and feeling it's such an intense place.
It's an incredible place, right? Like, because you feel, over 3,000 years or even more of history, and you feel that there's something there, and how many wars and fights and conflicts and religious practices, like that it's all condensed there, and I think you feel it. I do remember I was not so attuned to these kind of things when I was there last time, and even then, it resonates with you that there is something very deep here, and it's not just about a bunch of bricks and real estate, right? I'm making a caricature of it just to emphasize the point that there is so much depth in it, and with the market, with the way people are dressed, and the cultures, the religions, the beliefs, the values, all of that is mixed up there.
Yeah, and I think you express it very well, because it's not only the stones, although it's amazing because each stone that you see at that place has
a history,
thousands of years of history, and it's layers of history, layers of stones of history. But there is not only that. It's true. There is the markets, the culture. It's a beautiful place.
Just simply, at one point you look up and it says Via Dolorosa. And it's like, Rue de la Loire, okay? But there's Via Dolorosa. Oh, Jesus happened to walk here, by the way, yes. a couple hundred years ago, right? So here you are, landed in an empty flat. Your containers are somewhere
the containers
in the world.
Somewhere we don't know.
Yeah. And you're getting your life started.
Yeah, exactly. And people with family and kids, they know that it's the routine to install with young kids is a challenge.
How old were your kids?
3, 6, 7 at the time. Or
little. The little is little, but yeah. the elders could already kind of get some basic
Yeah.
understanding.
I'm very curious on what will they remember in the next years of this experience.
Well, especially as you will tell,
Yeah.
the lead up and the day leading to the 7 October 2023.
Exactly, because it was very fast for them, indeed. We arrived in August, and on the 7th of October, basically, the Hamas attack changed everything. So we had that life where we were starting to understand how it works. Just having a SIM card is complicated because, or even the trying to find gas for the car, and I'm going to explain you why. Because Jerusalem is really shared between West and East, and
in cultural sense, or
in everything. So Jerusalem West is a very Jewish life, and Jerusalem East is only Palestinian life. So everything is cut, and the difference, like the main border is just a road. Like, to be honest, there is and checkpoints.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, Israelis are not allowed to go to East Jerusalem. Is that correct?
No, it's super complicated. They administrate Jerusalem East.
Yeah.
Meaning the trash recollection, the maintenance of the roads, health system, like everything should be administrated by the Palestinian, but it's not, because Israel refused. Like, there is this friction from the past 40 years, 50 years. Woof. And so Israel has a very strong stake on Jerusalem East because they administrate the city, basically. And there is the problem of recognition of all the agreements.
The whole political.
Exactly. So concretely, what it means for people who live in Jerusalem is that if you want to buy a SIM card, then you can have a SIM card for Jerusalem West or a SIM card for Jerusalem East, and the two are supposed to work.
But both have the same country code? I mean, both are okay.
No, there is the Israeli country code and the Palestinian one. So it's very blurry because you can buy Jerusalem West SIM card in the East because they work better because of the signal everywhere. If you have a SIM card from Jerusalem East, most of the time it would only work in the West Bank. Like, you wouldn't have a signal in.
So basically, you kind of walk over the line, so to say, and your phone is roaming. It's a different. Okay, I'm trying to choose my words carefully. Different country, but it's a different region.
Yeah, it's a mess.
From a telecoms perspective.
From a telecom perspective, from like if you want to have internet, so that's the same issue. You have to choose your operator.
So basically, you would have two phones, depending on where you are.
I think a lot of people have two phones, but in Jerusalem, I think they try now. Like, it's not like you don't have signal anymore, but outside of Jerusalem, that's the case. So, like if you're in Ramallah with a Palestinian SIM card and you want to go to Tel Aviv, you don't have signal anymore. So this kind of things. Like another curious things for everyday life is that that Wise is like kind of the Google map for GPS for cars, right?
Yeah.
And Wise is in a
Waze.
Waze. Thank you. It's an Israeli company.
There's Wise and there's Waze.
Yeah. So it's Waze, and Waze it's so poor. It's such a powerful app that in Jerusalem it also makes you avoid the Orthodox Jewish neighborhood on Friday, for example.
So it's kind of encoded into it in some way to say stay off.
Exactly. It would direct you with another route depending on the day and the time of the day. So that's amazing. But if you look for a supermarket in East Jerusalem, it wouldn't bring you there. So it's amazing because everything is politic, even the map, or even the GPS map.
Yeah.
GPS app.
So there you are.
Yeah.
Figuring these things out of this incredible city with the history and all. But I wanted to just ask one more thing. So you socialized there. And what is your general impression? What sort of person landed there? If you can say that with any generic way. The adventurous, the curious, the politically charged, the religious?
All of them, all of those. Yeah, we like the colleagues of my former wife were all of those people. They were people that had careers in strictly in the Arab world. Some of them in the Middle East, coming from very different horizons. There were some people very committed to religion, and they were there to live that life, that religious life, that intense religious life in Jerusalem. There were the adventurers that really wanted to be there in the geopolitical turmoil. Well, I can tell you they were probably very satisfied after what happened.
They're careful what you wish for, huh?
Yes, exactly. No, but there were, many different profiles arrives or choose to have a chapter of their life in Jerusalem, and some of them never leave. And it was amazing to socialize with them. I remember going to the park, and they were giving me the tips to download the apps that tells you where the rockets lands. And that was before the events of the 7th of October, and we knew, like we were there, knowing that from time to time the geopolitical turmoil makes it a place with rockets. Yeah. So I remember having this discussion with another daddy, like, so which app do you use? Because there are so many apps about rockets. Oh no, this one is the best.
Unfortunately, not just in Israel and in Ukraine and a couple other places. I mean, it's insane that you need to have an app which even wakes you up in the middle of the night, if need be, to say, hey, incoming rocket.
Exactly.
I mean, we can't imagine that here.
And
I hope we'll never have to imagine that here. But I'm just saying that everything we've lived, even in Eastern Europe, until 2022, but Western Europe definitely. I mean, it's unimaginable that I need to download an app to alert me that there's incoming rocket. Yeah. Take shelter. Yeah. Lie down. Get out of the car and hide.
And the harder part is to realize that maybe even here in Brussels, maybe one day we will have to have this app. We have no idea. I
really hope not. But again, it's not science fiction anymore.
No, it's not, indeed.
Yeah. So going back, you have these, let's say, contact with the reality on the ground and learning from others and interacting and getting eased into life there.
Yeah, I remember spending these first months trying to adapt to the life. Like we had a card to fill the tank with gas, but the EU delegation, the EU representation to Palestine being very committed to support Palestinian people, we had instruction to actually favor Palestinian businesses.
So to fill your car gas tank on the other side.
Exactly. To avoid, like to put, how do you say that? To walk the talk, basically, to actually implement what we are here to do, right? And so I remember having to check on the map which gas station was in Jerusalem East and which gas station is Jerusalem West.
So going back to that horrible day. So where did it find you?
So the attack of the Hamas happened on the weekend of a bank holidays in Israel. And we were actually, because the school was closed, we actually had a week off. And we chose to, because it was our first holidays, and we had many plans, to go to the Red Sea, to visit all the ancient cities on both sides. But we had this very intense relocation. We still didn't have our stuff. So we were like, okay, let's do something easy. Let's go to the beach. So we chose to go to Tel Aviv. And so we rented the Airbnb by the sea, a couple of blocks from the sea. And we had an amazing time taking advantage of the last summer days in the region. Still very warm in September and October. And that was actually the attack happened in the morning of our last day. So we were actually ready to pack. And we starting to pack at the moment it happened. And so we were in this flat with the kids, trying to entertain them while packing. And I remember that we could hear some siren outside, and we kind of freaked out because we're like, yeah, we were sure that would happen one day, just like they could have left us a couple of more months to adapt to the to the country before having the first rocket attack. So because we knew it would happen, we kind of didn't panic. Before, when we were preparing ourselves to live in Jerusalem, everyone who've been living there told us, in the time you will be there will be issues. It might not be an intifada, it might not be an attack with rocket, but there will be events, and you have to be ready for that. And you got to not panic and be ready to protect your family and make it safe, right? And so we didn't feel ready for that, Just after 2 months being in a country, we didn't feel ready at all. But we didn't panic, and we're like, okay, where's the shelter? Either a shelter in the area, and so everyone is helping each other during the siren moments, although it was very early in the morning. And people were like, no, we're in the old part of Tel Aviv. There is no shelter here, so you have to go in the stairs of the building. It was a, 5 or 6 floors building. And people were living there.
So the building in which you stayed, it didn't have a shelter, because I think all buildings must have a safe room.
Yeah, exactly.
But what you're saying is that the building you stayed in did not.
It did not have, because it was a very old part of Tel Aviv that was built before the threat for the populations.
Yeah.
So we tried. I think the most difficult things for me was to keep being positive and reassuring my kids while freaking out of anxiety, of guilt, or like, why did I bring my kids in Tel Aviv and there is a rocket attack, And we still had no idea of the scale of the attack. To be honest, we thought it was just like the couple of rockets that could happen.
Again, let's just pause for a second. So it wasn't just an alarm. Actually, rockets were falling.
So it was not like we had a cloud of 200 rockets coming on Tel Aviv at once. Basically, we had sirens. We had no idea what was happening. And it's not like we had time to go in the street to look at the skies. We're like, okay, there is a rocket. We knew from the apps we have, from the apps that didn't work on that day, but the apps that tell you about the rockets tell you about the time you have between the beginning of the alarm to the moment of the impact. So basically, in Tel Aviv, you have around 1 minute and 30 seconds, I think. Probably they know when the rocket is launched, and that's the calculation of the time between the launch of the rockets and the moment it will have an impact on the city. So 1 minute is going very fast. So we were like, okay, let's go to the stairs. And we're with all the people living in a building that were there. And I remember we trying to get some snack for the kids, because you don't know how long time it will last, right? And so very quickly it went off, the alarm went off. So we started to go back packing, and we're like, okay, let's finish packing and leave. We still had no idea about what was happening. No one had no idea about what was happening in the morning of the 7th of
including
October.
locals.
Yeah. And I remember there is a lot of French-speaking community in Tel Aviv. Maybe because of anti-Semitism in France, maybe because of a lot of things, but there is a lot of French speakers in Tel Aviv.
Because food is great in Tel Aviv.
Maybe that's why.
And it's beach and all that. Yeah.
And so in the building, we happened to be with a French-speaking woman that was a French citizen that decided to do Aliyah in Israel. Doing the Aliyah is actually to leave your religion. So if you're a Jewish from another country, you actually are welcome in Israel to leave your Jewish religion in Israel. So
just live, right?
Yes.
Just to be sure to.
Exactly.
There's no misunderstanding there. No. Basically, to move to Israel.
Yeah, and embrace your religion there. And so a lot of people are doing the Aliyah, how they say. And she, it was funny because she welcomed us, and she was like, "Don't worry, it happens very often. We never had any impact here, so don't like." She was very reassuring and very nice with us. And she saw that we were a bit anxious with the kids as well. And it was funny because that's when being an expat working for the EU representation for Palestine and being in Israel can be tricky. Talking about connecting with people, because she was like, "What are you doing in Tel Aviv? Are you on holidays? And we were like, oh no, we live in Jerusalem. And for her, French people being in Tel Aviv and living in Jerusalem, being new there, was automatically that we were doing our Aliyah as well. So meaning
like, why else would you be there, right?
Exactly. And it is complicated because to what extent you can actually during a rocket crisis tell no, we live in Jerusalem because my wife worked for the EU representation of the EU to Palestine, so we support the Palestinian people. So that connection is hazardous, right? To what extent you can say that to someone you don't know? That was very curious, a very curious feeling for me. Like, do we have to just don't say anything?
What am I in this situation?
Yeah.
In her eyes.
What am I in her eyes? Will she stop helping me if I tell her that we're actually here to support the Palestinian people? That was very complicated. That was a mental trick, like.
And again, just to highlight, I mean, it's not a black or white, either or, that kind of thing. But
do I have to be genuine and authentic, or do I just say nothing more than what she needs to know? No, that was I remember feeling myself, wow, that's a complicated situation, right?
Yeah. Especially in a situation like that.
Yeah. And I also remember her telling me, and don't worry, whatever happens, we will win. And she said that with a conviction, like with faith, which tells a lot about, the conviction of people, what they have inside in this region that's so intense. Anyway, and that's when we started to realize the attack was just the beginning, or at least it was not the end, because we decided to go out in the street when it was still calm with the kids, so they could play a little bit and be outside while we were finishing packing. And there was a second alert. So the sirens is very strong, is very, very strong.
It's like penetrating sound, right?
I don't know if you've been in a situation in your life with the sirens telling you there is a danger. But yeah, it's super strong. So I was packing and my wife was outside in the street with the kids. And as soon as I heard the siren, I decided to go out and tell them, come back in, right? And I saw them running and everyone was running in the street and we could see the rockets in the sky and the Iron Shell. So the Iron Shell is the protection of
Iron Dome. Yeah.
Yes, the Iron Dome.
It's like an anti-missile system.
Exactly. And so it's very developed in Israel, obviously, because of the threat they face every day. And so we could see that in the skies. And it's not like I could stop and contemplate it. We had to rush with the kids inside again.
I mean, it must be. I mean, luckily until now, I've never had to witness it, but millions and millions of people have. So you're basically on that beautiful city on the beach, finishing your vacation, and you look up on the sky, and you don't see a falling star. You see actual rockets with sirens.
Yeah,
blasting in the air.
Exactly. And the anxiety of the people.
Of course. Plus, you see everyone around you is...
Yeah, everyone is running. Everyone's like, go to the shelter. So we were,
shocked.
And that's when my former wife received a call from the security team of the delegation saying, where are you? Because we know you were supposed to travel for the holidays. And so we told them we're in Tel Aviv. It's bad because we got multiple sirens. The app doesn't work because there were so many rockets that the app was completely saturated. So we didn't know, we didn't have this support from our phone. We just could rely on the sirens in the street. And nobody had a reading of the situation yet. We just knew that it was bigger than the usual. Exactly. Right? The usual with brackets, absolutely. And that's when you start to feel like, okay, is it safe for me to take my car and drive my family back to Jerusalem? Is it safer? We all assume it's safer in Jerusalem because no one wants to destroy the old city. There is so many connection, religious connection, emotional connection with the city that we all assume that Jerusalem is safer than Tel Aviv or safer than any other place in the West Bank as well. So we were like feeling exposed in Tel Aviv, and we actually wanted to be back in Jerusalem, still having no idea of the scale of the attack on the 7th of October. So it was midday when the EU said, look, we don't know yet exactly what's happening, but it's huge. So would you feel more comfortable if we send you a team that will convey you?
Like pick you up, essentially.
Exactly, right? And bring you back to Jerusalem. And we're like, yes, please, because actually are we brave enough or are we stupid enough? You don't know what's brave, what's stupid in that situation. You have to bring back your kids home and you have no idea what's happening. So we were checking the news, and the news was starting to, get on fire about it all. So we learned that the airport was closed, and when they close the airport, it's a bad sign because you're stuck. Also, you cannot escape with a plane, right? So we're like, oh my God, what's happening? And so we started to freak out, and we started to stay very positive with the kids, telling them that fireworks in the sky were a lot better at night, starting to make jokes. Because they could feel the anxieties of people and the emotions, but they couldn't understand what was happening. And we, to be honest, could understand the headlines and the idea behind it, but we had no idea about the scale of it yet. So we were feeling better, being taken care of by professionals of security. So they sent an armored car, which is basically a normal SUV with very, very heavy doors and windows. And we just need to wait for them. So we felt a little bit...
So the phone line worked, but not the apps.
Yeah, exactly. The phone was working very well. So we started to receive some messages from friends as well and families. They were like...
Here you are already mid-morning, late morning, time around.
Yeah, midday, beginning of the afternoon. But not everyone was aware of that back in Europe. In the middle of the day. So we received the security team. They proposed to have the kids and my former wife in the armored car, and someone would escort me in the car that I would drive back. So we would be 2 cars, and we would have one security team in each car, and the family would be safe in the armored car. So I was like, yeah, that sounds perfect to go back to Jerusalem. And once again, we're like, what's on the road? So the guys from the security team were like, the road was completely empty. It's the first time we saw that road with absolutely no cars. So everyone was home and trying to understand what was happening, I guess.
Just as a side note, the app Waze was invented to avoid traffic jams, right? Just to lighten up this difficult moment. Well, this was not needed at this point.
Not needed at all, indeed. So I remember driving the car next to this security guy. So security team is also a beautiful. It's amazing to connect to the people that work there, because most of them are former soldiers that lived in war countries, and that for the rest of their career propose their skills and offer their expertise to security teams and to protect workers. And so it was amazing to also connect with that guy. He was Irish, and he used to work in Afghanistan. And I remember we had a beautiful bond on the way back to Jerusalem. So he was constantly on the radio to also try to understand what was happening. Mm-hmm. And we had a kind of a moment of release, because we could see planes, like on the way back from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, you actually passed the airport, the Tel Aviv airport. And we could see planes landing and taking off. So we were like, oh, it's fine. Like life is... resuming. Like it's over, right? So we arrived in Jerusalem, like it was at the end of the afternoon, and we started to the routine with the kids, to put them to bed.
Already it was evening. And
thinking, wow, what an adventure we had. Hopefully we won't have that many again. And we put the kids in bed. It's 8 p.m. and we tried to. It was still very hot in Jerusalem, so I remember popping up a beer with my former wife and starting to watch the 200 messages from our friends and the news, and that's when we realized something very serious is actually happening here right now, and there is the guilt. With the family, just like we brought our kids here, and here we are. Is it what we deserve? Is it what is going to happen? So I remember feeling this huge guilt, going to bed on that night and having problem finding my sleep.
So, like, what have I brought on to my kids?
Exactly. What are we doing here again? Like, I remember feeling that a strong guilt and a strong fear. Although we were trying to get a distance from it and trying to see how it's part of the experience. We guests here, we have to live through that, and everything will be all right. So we were trying also to reconfort ourselves, but we were starting to be scared, obviously. And it was, again, before Wednesday, so that was a Saturday. Before Wednesday, we had no idea of the atrocities that were committed in the kibbutz. No one knew exactly what happened and what was about to happen, but it smelled very bad. That's for sure. And I remember chilling out on a Sunday. Everything was supposed to be open on Sunday in Jerusalem, and everything was closed. And we started to wonder if the school would open on Monday, what would happen, what's next. So a lot of uncertainties. And I remember the announcement of the school staying closed on Monday. And so but we still had to walk. Like I accommodated my missions with my current employer, so that I could telewalk from Jerusalem. But I had meetings on Monday morning, and so I remember, because internet was still not sorted out in my house, I had to go to the house of a colleague of my wife to walk with the internet. And in the meantime, we had a beautiful nanny taking care of our kids at home because the school was closed. And my wife was in the EU representation, and everyone wondering.
Crisis mode, obviously.
Exactly. And I remember having my morning team meeting with my peeps from Brussels. And I remember that in the middle of the meeting, having a siren in Jerusalem, which was not supposed to happen, right? We knew that on the Saturday, some people told us they had a siren, but we're not sure if an impact happened. But they had one siren. But on a Monday, we had this siren in the morning. And
in Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem, with my app, which was perfectly working there. And that was telling me, you have 1 minute and 20 seconds to go to a shelter. And I was in this house that I didn't know, alone. And it was like, my kids were at home. And I was like, wow. So I remember running in the basement. And I remember hearing the noise of the impact. Like a very far. And I think that was the first time in my life I heard the impact of a rocket. It was very far, like no one was injured. It fell into 2 buildings in Jerusalem West, but I could hear it, and it froze my... it was so scary. I realized, wow, this is actually the noise of the war. This is concrete. This is right here, right now. So I remember trying to call my wife, trying to call the nanny to see if everything was all right. Everything was fine. It was really hard for my wife as well, my former wife, who actually was at a job, not with the kids. So we came back home, and I remember I arrived home first, and I remember taking care of the kids, saying to the nanny to go back home because everyone is affected by the war, and the nanny wanted to be with her family as well, and so you say goodbye, you just like good luck. It's so intense in that moment, So I remember being with the kids, answering the message. Obviously, everyone knew that the rocket was launched in Jerusalem, so I had a lot of messages from friends and family, and I could feel the pressure. Like people are actually scared for you. I could feel the love, but I could feel the fear as well, and how not to be contaminated by the fear of other when you already feel some fear, right? So I remember spending my time answering people. Everything is fine. Leave me alone. Everything is fine. But obviously everyone was engaged, and everyone was like, wow,
What's happening?
What's happening? We hope you're right. What will you do next? And we had no idea. So I remember on the Monday evening, what happened that we had a second rocket in the afternoon in Jerusalem. And I think that's the moment where most of the expat community decided it was not safe anymore. It was too much.
That was on Monday, or?
Yeah, Monday afternoon. I was with the kids.
9th October, right?
Yeah. I was with the kids. My smallest one, my youngest one, was having a nap. And we had a safe room, which was not a basement, which was just a room with thick walls and no windows. Most of the danger comes from the
shrapnel.
Exactly. And the glass. So
that's why they either have no windows or very small windows, so it doesn't explode or break in case of attack.
Exactly. And we choose this room to be the bedroom of my two elder girls. So I told them, so when we had a siren again, and I had the app ringing, and I was like, oh, again. So you have 1 minute and 20 seconds. So I remember telling the girls, go into your bedrooms. I'm going to get my son, who is sleeping in the other bedroom. And I probably didn't have that comforting tone voice. I was probably panicking. So the kids felt it and were like, no, we don't want to leave you. So we went together in the bedroom of my kids. We waked him up. He was starting to cry, obviously, because he could feel something was wrong, and the sirens were shouting. And we went into the safe room, and again we heard the impact. Also, in the distance, we were like, honestly, we were not the targets, but you never know when you rockets with fly, right? You just don't want to be the mistake, right? And I remember my wife calling me, are you safe? And we're like, it's all fine. We're in the safe room. My kids was still crying, so it was emotionally draining. And she decided to come back home. And that's when we had our first discussion, like, what do we do? Do we leave? Can we leave? Like what the EU is going to do, what the other...
What's her obligation professionally?
Exactly, what's her obligation?
What's you as a parent?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
What's my responsibility as a parent? Exactly. I was like, do I want to go ahead? Do I want to take the next siren as the next risk? So we started to ask ourselves a lot of questions. And one of our friends, one of the journalists, his wife was away for the holidays, and he was alone with his kid. And I remember he asked us if we could look after his kids because the nanny couldn't pass the checkpoint. Everything was frozen everywhere, like no one could move in the country. And still, we had no idea of what happened in the kibbutz. We had no idea of what would happen. So I remember the journalist came to me and said, like, don't you mind if you keep my child for the whole day, because I have to go, like I'm invited to go to the kibbutz to make a reportage,
to cover it.
I don't want to go with him. And so I remember we kept his child. The kids were not in their normal behaviors. Everyone could feel the tension, I guess. And I remember him coming back in the evening, late evening. He was white, and he told me, I cannot tell you the stories I heard because they're horrific and we don't know if it's true. But if it's true, it's terrifying. And that was Tuesday. So I was like, okay. So
rockets falling, stories coming.
Yeah.
Pressure mounting.
Exactly. No idea.
What to do.
No idea what to do. So a lot of embassies started to evacuate their staff, Germany first. And our German friend that I told you a story about earlier before, when the one who told us which app we'd better use for the rockets, he was starting to prepare the evacuation. And because the Tel Aviv airport had no more commercial flights. So basically, it was just countries that were sending evacuation flights for their citizens, nothing else. So because it was not sure yet he would have a seat in the next plane to Germany with his kids, and because he's been here for 12 years, he had a great resilience, I guess, and he started to organize an extraction by the Jordan border.
So extraction on land.
Yes. So basically, you cannot pass the border between West Bank and Jordan with your car. So you have to organize a taxi basically with your family to the border, and then you have to walk.
You're handed over
exactly
without passing it.
Exactly.
So
you do your paper. You make sure everything's fine.
You walk through.
You walk through, and then there are like taxis to bring you from the border to Amman, to the capital. A lot of people have very different strategy. A lot of people actually went, the expats who used to live in Jerusalem for their whole life, they went just to to Jericho because there are beautiful resorts. It's next to the border. So it was very funny because everyone has his own strategy and urge or fears or
coping mechanisms.
Exactly. And so that dad, he told me, look, I'm preparing myself. If I don't have a seat in the plane tomorrow, I will drive to the border of Jordan, and then I will take a taxi to Amman, and from Amman, all the commercial flights to Europe are working. So and I was like, yeah, it's good to have a B plan. So he gave me the contact of the tour operator who would actually organize the taxi to the border and from the border to Amman. And I started to get connection, and I was like, I'm not sure yet because maybe we will stay. I have no idea. So it was a lot of uncertainties. But then every embassy started to organize the evacuation of their citizens. And my friend from Germany didn't have the seat in the plane, so he decided to go through Jordan. So he left. He gave me everything I need to know. He told me, try to book an hotel because all the people are actually going to Amman to have a plane. So the hotel are getting full, but good luck. And that's again, how do you say goodbye? How do you say goodbye to people in that time, right? I remember feeling completely disoriented without this is the last goodbye. Will I see them ever again? I never saw them again, by the way. But I know they're safe. They're in Germany now.
Yeah.
So I in the evening, I proposed my former wife, who was working every day in the Euro presentation. They were wondering what to do. There was starting to be a lot of hostility from Israel towards the agency like UNRWA working with Palestine. So the EU was kind of a target. They were organizing protests.
Given the EU funding to UNRWA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in front of the EU delegation. So I remember everything was complicated. No one felt safe and everyone was trying to leave. But evacuation was still not offered by the EU. So I look, maybe we should have a B plan and an A plan. So we called the French embassy and we're like, is there a possibility to have a seat in the plane in the next days because we don't feel safe anymore? And they were like, it was amazing because France was having I think 2 planes a day on that week, just dedicated to French citizens, right? And I remember them telling me, I thought with three young kids that I would be on the priority list, right? I was like, hey, I have 3 kids. I'm a daddy.
Je suis français.
Yes.
Avec 3 enfants.
Exactly. And they were like, oh, actually, families is for later. Right now, we're dealing with senior people, elder people with medical needs.
So there is priority list, essentially.
Exactly.
I mean, what a moral, ethical dilemma that is. No?
Completely.
How do you prioritize in such a case? Do you prioritize seniors because of their medical condition, or actually the young families with the kids because they are the future. I mean, it's an impossible. Oh my God. I hope I never need to face such a dilemma.
Yeah, it's true. Super complicated. And it was amazing because just elder people with medical needs and minor, so young people who are isolated, meaning minor who visited the family but their life is in France. Basically, they were the priority, and then came the family, and then came the other ones.
Right.
So we were Thursday, and we're like, oh my God. So they were like, maybe if our calculation is okay, you'll have a seat over the weekend or next week. And that's exactly the moment of the week when all the news were focusing on the atrocities. They discovered what happened at the festival. So tension was rising.
The Nova Festival.
Yeah, exactly. Tension was rising really high. Like, we were like, how will Hezbollah react? How is Iran react? How is Israel react? And what will be the reaction of all the other ones? So we were like, oh my God.
Right. And just for the viewers, Hezbollah is in the north, it's in Lebanon. Yeah. So is there going to be a second direction or front from which further attacks might be coming? Exactly. So not just from the south or the Gaza region, but like, is the country under attack, like literally from multiple directions or not?
Yeah. And we were like also watching what Netanyahu government was doing, because we're like, the reaction from the neighborhood enemy countries can be terrible. And do we want to be here when that happens?
And maybe, one more very interesting aspect of this, which many people were wondering at the time. So Israel is a Jewish state, formally speaking, but 20% of its population is not Jewish. Yeah. So you have a huge Muslim community, citizens, Israeli citizens with Muslim background, beliefs, religion, but you also have others. Like there are also Christians and Druze and many others. So it's a very diverse country. So now in such a charged situation with such insane, where the tension is rising and ethnic, religious tensions are at the forefront of it, aside from the political and all the rest. Like what is that going to mean even internally in the country?
Yeah, and everyone was frozen. Everyone. Like even the communities that were not involved in that fight. Everything stops. Everything stops. Everyone is watching. What's next? Am I safe? And I was super anxious and stressed because I felt stuck. But I had options, and I could leave. Whereas the people we were interacting every day, that's their life. That's where they are. Where would they go? Some of them have cousins in other countries. There is a big diaspora, obviously, of Palestinians, but still, like the airport doesn't work. You have to know that Palestinians, they also don't have a passport because it's not recognized as a country. So they have a laissez-passer that allows some of them to take a plane in Tel Aviv when there is commercial flights. Otherwise, they need to go through Jordan, and they can only leave Palestine by going to Jordan and to Amman, because it's the only country that recognizes the laissez-passer of the Palestinians. So it's
they
super
can
complicated.
Cross the border to Jordan.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, we're talking those in the West Bank.
Yeah, because there is only Tel Aviv airport as an international airport in Israel. So if people from the West Bank want to travel, they don't have the right or the laissez-passer to go to Tel Aviv airport.
Do they have the right to fly from Amman elsewhere?
Yeah.
Or no?
Well, they have to. They have a laissez-passer that allows them to go to Amman, and from Amman, then there is all the situation which country recognize the laissez-passer of Palestinian people.
Right.
Not
because
all
it's
of
not
them.
A passport, so you might leave, but you're not necessarily granted entry elsewhere.
Exactly. That's what's happening.
I didn't know that.
And so it's also important to consider that, because we had great relationship with the nanny. We had neighbors. We started to have this kind of ecosystem life. And so I remember being self-centered on my family and watching my neighbors and the people around us with so much empathy and thinking, I'm freaking out because I feel stuck, but they will stay here no matter what. They will stay there.
Did you have that tension internally? Like, are you abandoning others, or perhaps not? Or how did that play out in you?
So yeah, I felt that gap with my anxieties versus their fate and their destiny and they. But there's something about the Palestinian way of life, like people our age. They have known so many intifadas, so many unsafe way of life that they're super resilient, and there is a pride also. They want to stay on their land because they know that if they leave, it won't be there anymore. No one will keep it for them. So I didn't feel in the people around us this urge to leave. They were like, we're here and we're going to face that as we've always done. But on my side, I was just like, I just wanted to leave. And I remember also feeling there were a complete difference in a day at work for my former wife, who was going every day to the European. They were like, they had so many calls with Brussels because Ursula von der Leyen came to Israel, but in the same time they didn't know who to support. Like it was a big mess for the geopolitics also for in Brussels, right? Yeah. And so they were like, who is coordinating what? Are they the people in Tel Aviv coordinating? Are they the people in Jerusalem? So that was a big mess. It was a big mess for the EU activities.
I mean, we saw it from the outside. I mean, you're revealing no secret. Just simply following social media and press and news and personal stories.
Yeah, and you get the idea.
Everybody was witnessing that.
And
so, did you manage to leave eventually, or get on a plane, or that?
So to cut the story short, the day I wanted to leave through the Jordan border, they closed the border basically. So we only had the plane as a backup plan.
So you already determined I'm going to go towards Jordan.
Yeah,
before you could start on that path. Border closed. We
had a disagreement with my wife. She wanted to leave more time to the EU to sort things out and maybe got us a flight from Tel Aviv, but it was not coming. We knew that with France it would at least we had to wait maybe a week. So for me, I was considering Jordan as the obvious gateway.
Yeah, the most straightforward, so to say.
Yeah, and I remember calling and tell her, well, the plan B is off because they closed the border to avoid, panic at the border, and there is no way we can go to Jordan anymore. So we have to rely on Air France, or if the EU prepares some flights for the staff. And believe it or not, but on a Saturday, that was the birthday of my elder girl. And it was we had a birthday plan from before the attack. And we were trying to count which kids is still in Jerusalem. So we offer still a birthday to my girl. And I remember we also had, we wanted to have a little activity for them, and we've been in touch with a wizard who was from West Jerusalem, meaning he was a Jewish wizard that agreed to come to Jerusalem East to
perform
tricks to perform to the kids. And we were like, will he come? Like we really didn't know what to do. We didn't want to cancel, right? Like it's once again, life goes ahead, even though
you keep a sense of normalcy.
Exactly.
For the kids.
Like, what do you
ability to say it's your birthday, it's your day.
Like, we won't celebrate it because everyone fled and we stuck here. Like, it was really hard. So we decided, we checked, and there were still an amount of kids that had the same problem as us that were stuck in Jerusalem. So we went ahead with the birthday. That was Saturday, a week after the attack. And yet, with all the atrocities revealed on the news app every hours with an update. And I remember still having to answer. So many people were showing us love from abroad, telling us, we think of you, we hope you're right, what's your next move? And I also remember people telling me, when do you leave? Real good question from my own parents. They were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, we don't want you to be there. We want you to be home. What are you doing with the kids? You know, so there was this pressure, this guilt, but also this inability, like we were not in control of anything. And this is during the wizard performance to the kid that the EU delegation called us and told us, look, the Belgian army is sending a plane for the Belgian citizen. And there are seats for the family. Evacuation is not compulsory, so you can say yes or no. If you say no, there won't be any more Belgian army plane. This is the only one. That was like Saturday, 4 p.m. And the plane was like Sunday, 11 a.m. And we're like, okay, what do we do now? What do we do in Brussels? We didn't have anything. We didn't have a flat. We just had friends, but we didn't have a flat. We didn't have a school. Like, how long time will it last? Like, when can we come back to our life in Jerusalem? At the time, we thought it might be like maybe a couple of weeks, and then we could come back, right? We had no idea. And what do we do with the cat? It's stupid, right? But what do we do with the cat? So I remember trying to get the person responsible for the army plane to understand if I could take the cat with me. And I was like, it looks bad, right? Was the question. But what do you do with your cat?
So much. This would be like a movie scene, because the world is upside down. Your world is upside down. And it's like I think the cat is a symbol, no? A symbol of a normal life. Yeah. And of course, it's an animal and you want to take care of it, but it's a symbol of an anchor that if the cat is there, life is okay. And if the cat is not there, something is very off.
Yeah, exactly.
It really feels like that. And this is like the question, which one is the non-smoking lifeboat? Yeah. Right? Like, yes. Hey, here's the army plane. You can take your family, you can get away, but I have a cat.
And they were like, sorry, we favor people. And that's fantastic, you know, like they were like, so pets are not allowed. We are sorry, we know it's an issue, but we like, there are places for humans in that plane. So you're safe, not for pets. And once again, you're in the middle of this geopolitical like turmoil, like it's a huge international crisis. And, you know, you have to ask that question, can I take my cat in a plane? You know? And once again, you ask that question and you know that people, they are still stuck because we were among the privileged people that had a seat on the plane on the following day. Anyway, there were all of that in your mind, right? And still the wizard is still performing, like he's hiding the rabbits and the children are clapping, and it's beautiful too, you know? It's just like, what the fuck?
It's like a scene out of Fauda.
Yes, yes. And so we were like, so we have to take a decision. We have to say right now if we want to live, for how long time, how many suitcase, what do we do with the kids next week? Like, all these questions unsorted, right? Like, do we have a place to stay? So I'm going to admit something. I thought when you're the spouse of a diplomat and when you evacuated for the country at war, I thought that I would arrive in Brussels and I would get a medal of merit. And I thought I would get like a suite in a nice hotel where I could chill, see that coming, and just plan for the next, right? But no, actually no. That's not what happened. But we can see that later. But basically, I really thought when I had to decide if we were about to leave or not, I really thought everything will be easier once in Brussels because there will be arrangement for us. And it will be fine. We will see clearer from there. And we won't have the guilt of putting our family in danger. And we will see how it comes and see when we fly back to Jerusalem. That was what I had in mind. My wife was, but if we leave, we don't know when we can come back, and we leave everything here, and I will have to come back to work because I'm necessary staff. And so she had other issue on the side. So we had to take a decision. And for the kids, I have to admit, we were like, we leave. We put them out of here.
That's priority number one.
Exactly. And we see for the rest. So we called friends. We're like, we're a family of 5 people without the cat. And we're like, hi, do you have space for us on Sunday evening? And so the EU security team brought us to the airport. We were 2 families, so they had in total 10 seats for the EU staff, which is great. It's a chance, it's a privilege, and we're very grateful for Belgium to cooperate with the EU to actually offer this.
Was it a kind of plane you see in movies? So
absolutely. So I'm going to tell you the story. It's very funny because we had no idea. We're like, when we were at the airport, where do we go? Do we have a special road to the plane? Like, how does it work? And people were like, the only thing we know is that there is a lot of evacuation team for every countries. So you will follow the Belgian one, basically. So we actually checked in, like we had a security check, like in every normal flight, right? There were staff in the airport, but it was only dedicated to the evacuation of people. So then it was actually hard to find, but our plane was indicated on the departure board, like near the plane. We had to give our suitcase that's, where had stickers like a normal flight. So we're like, maybe we'll have a normal flight. In the end, we had no idea. And then the bus took a long time. Like the security check were huge, you can imagine, because they don't want to, because of the refugee crisis and all the terrorism in Europe, they also didn't want to ship or to help terrorists, right, on the flight to flee Israel. So it took a long time, but we eventually arrived in front of the plane, which was indeed an army plane. And I remember we stayed in the bus quite a long time on the tarmac in the sun. It was pretty hot. The kids were starting to get annoyed. The seats were, like in the movies, aligned, like you're in front of a bench and you have a bench yourself, and it's the same on the other side. And the crowd...
Like in the movies.
Like in the movies. And the crowd was amazing because it was a lot of Belgian citizens that were actually doing their aliyah in Israel. Most of the people in the plane were Belgian citizens trying to go back to safety in Belgium, right? And so it was an amazing mix of Orthodox Jewish in their outfits and the cliche of, I remember we sympathized with 2 gay dads that were with a family, which is, in Tel Aviv, the Pride is a big event. Like there is a big inclusion of LGBT communities, right? So it was amazing to be with Jewish Orthodox and gay dads in the same plane, right? Fleeing the war
from Israel.
Exactly. I remember the staff being very friendly. It was a long flight because it was a plane with hélice.
With the propeller.
Yeah, exactly. And we landed at Zaventem, but on the army section of Zaventem, so it was not on the airport part of it that everyone knows.
Weren't you concerned about rockets, or that there was a period when it was not a risk?
Yeah, we were, because there was the rockets were still flying on Tel Aviv, and the airport was a target, obviously. And I think 1 rocket arrived on the airport, not on any infrastructure, but on the land, basically. So yeah, I have to admit, until we took off, I was still very anxious. And even though taking off, everyone was anxiously trying to check on the very rare windows of the plane, because there are not a lot of windows on the army planes, out of anxiety of seeing a rocket. So I remember flying over Tel Aviv, over the beaches where 1 week before I was still, sunbathing with my kids. And I remember feeling anxious until we were out of the Israel airspace. Yeah. And when we landed, we had a healthy mental health team from the provided by the state of Belgium to actually ask us questions like, do you need help? Did you see things? How do you feel? That was very, very well arranged for to welcome us back to Brussels. And I remember it was raining, and I remember feeling so safe for the first time in a week, right? I remember feeling like, okay, we made it. My kids are safe. Whatever happens, it's all going to be fine. I had a small thought for my cat, but honestly, I was really happy to be there. It was the beginning of a new chapter with a lot of logistic barrier, but we were safe, and it was amazing. So then, that's when people stop calling you because you're now in Europe and they know you're safe. But it's the beginning of the problem. What do you do with your kids? You cannot stay forever in a house for people that are kind enough to host you on the sofa, right? Well, first of all, I didn't have my medal. And I didn't have my suite at the hotel. So we were trying to check Airbnb. How long time do you rent? Do you take a Airbnb for 3 weeks, for a month? There is no instruction manual or guide.
You were sort of a refugee, but...
Yeah, with a golden spoon. I was a refugee with a golden spoon. But yeah, we had that same problem as anyone arriving in a country. And we, the activities for the kids, you're stuck. Basically, you have to take care of your kids every day.
You were neither here nor there.
Exactly. And my work was I had to take 15 days off because I was okay, I don't know if I can. And I remember we were preparing COP because my work involved flying to COP every year.
COP, the climate conference.
The climate change conference of parties, yeah. And I remember I had to work on that. I was I'm sorry, guys. I don't know. I don't know how I can do that. So I remember taking those day off, and for my wife also it was a challenge because she had to follow things from Brussels, and she felt also the guilt.
Did she eventually go back?
Yeah. So then what happened is that until Christmas, we were in an in-between. People were helping us with the flats. We found something that we could live anytime, like a kind of furniture flat. The former school of the kids took them back. So we kind of sorted the basic stuff. But it was still an issue for us. When do we go back? When do we go back? And my wife had to go back. She was necessary staff. So her boss was kind enough to offer her the flexibility to accommodate the family. But so eventually from February, she had to fly back half the month there. So I was solo parenting half the month, and then she was coming back the other half of the month. But it was not like we had an established routine. We still hoped we would fly back, and it took us maybe until June. I think Christmas was the first indication. We were obviously Netanyahu is determined to crush Gaza. Obviously, this country, and crush Hamas. And obviously, the real question is, if we go back, do we want our kids to just grow up there in this tension between Jerusalem and East and West? And we were no. The answer is no. But it's painful for my former wife's career, for our logistics, for our plans, for our dreams, for everything. The good news is a good friend of us from Jerusalem was flying back to France over Christmas and flew our cat back.
A little consolation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And now to perhaps end the conversation, or we could even leave it open and maybe continue at another time, because we've already covered a fair bit of ground. But you look back at this entire story from today, the day of recording. How do you see this? What are your thoughts?
It's a good question, because part of my mind see that as a life-changing event, because it came add a layer of mess in our family life, and today I'm going through a separation. It's disconnected. I don't. Our couple was already complicated. I think this event just gave it a final
push.
Yeah, final push. So, but how would be my life today if that wouldn't have happened? I would still be in Jerusalem. I hope I would speak Arabic and Hebrew already. How would be my career? How would be the education of my kids? That all of that would be completely different. So yeah, it happened. We grateful. We went through that on the safest way possible. We're very privileged and lucky that we could have had this evacuation, and that we could reconstruct our life, even though differently now in Brussels, which is a place we love. But yeah, that was a completely life-changing events. Like my little story of my humble life was completely impacted by the great story of the region. And now I live with that. I carry that story with me. It can be exciting to tell that story, but on the moment, I saw my limits. I saw my fear. I had to confront the different ideas we had also with my wife of what we want to do as a family in front of those events, what we want to do with our career in front of these events. This small story of my life impacted by the great story of the world.
I love the way you phrase that, and it's tragic, it's human, it's beautiful, it's horrific, it's all of that at the same time.
Yeah, truly.
Very well. Well, thank you for sharing that, and just to the viewers, really, this is not to discuss the Middle East. This is to hear your story as you lived the event, and there are millions of other conversations to be had around this. But this was really on you sharing your vantage point of how you lived through these cataclysmic events.
Yes, it's funny because one of my friends told me a long time after we were talking about that evacuation and how life changed after, and he told me it's amazing that you have this normal life in Brussels, and you make some choice, and suddenly you under a rocket, and you sharing this anxiety with so many people and this tension. How can the brain cope with that?
How you adapt, and you shared all those dilemmas and the little and big dilemmas and decisions and all the rest. And of course, there are millions of others in similar circumstances and exposed to all of this. And I think hearing your way of describing it was extremely interesting. With that, our ritual of you being asked to pull a card and answer that.
So
as a closing step.
The School of Life.
Yeah. What does it say?
What do you imagine people say when they gossip about you? Well, that's an interesting question that I could actually talk about with my therapist. So you were right. What do I imagine people say when they gossip about me? Well, I'd love to imagine the gossip being about how adventurous my life has been, and how resilient I've been through that life, through that life choices, family and career. So yeah, I imagine they say, he's crazy, but he's adventurous. Craziness.
As a closing line, I'll take it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.